Hello kids, hope you all will be fine. Today in this video, I'm going to talk about the first chapter of class 9th, Matter in Our Surroundings. In this chapter, we are going to discuss in brief that what the different things around us are made up of. Okay, for example, like you can see here, if you look at our surroundings, it has different things. You can see the animals around us, like we human beings are also one of them. We can see the different areas, like you can see village scene, you can see the forest area with a lot of trees. You can also see the universe is around us. That means we are a part of the huge universe, correct? We can see sun around us, we can see the buildings or the cities having a huge population there and different things around us. So whenever we think about that, what these all things are made up of, so it is not only we who are thinking, it is long back this thought started. So thousands of years back also, people used to think that what this matter is made up of. So when we talk about it, what the earlier Indians used to think. So when we talk about earlier Indians, the earlier Indian philosophers believed that this matter is made up of Panch Tattva. Panch means 5 and Tattva means the things, correct? And they believed that these things like fire, air, correct, earth, so that they believe that fire, air, earth, water and ether, these are the 5 components from which the whole universe and everything in the universe is made up of. And that's why they said that the matter or the things around us are made up of these Panch Tattva or the 5 elements, correct? As the scientists did a lot of studies and a lot of people studied what the matter around us is made up of, the things around us are made up of, and several scientists came together and they gave a term that means the term was coined, which we call as matter. And what is matter? That any substance which occupies some space and has some mass, that is called as matter. So whenever we talk about the matter, that means it is anything around us which is occupying some space and is having some mass, correct? So again, this matter is divided into different types or categories on different bases. Like we can say, when we talk about the composition of matter on or the classification of matter on the basis of its chemical composition. So we can divide the matter into elements, 1. Second, we can have the second category compounds, and third is the mixture. We're going to talk about this in the coming chapters and coming videos. And when we talk about matter, the classification of matter on the basis of its physical properties. So we have divided on the basis of first physical state. If we divide the matter on the basis of its physical state, we can divide the matter into 3 categories. First, that is solids, liquid and gases. Fine. So this is the classification of matter. Fine. But it can be divided on the basis of its chemical composition, that what it is made up of, and on the basis of physical properties. Physical properties means its appearance, textures, structure, basic structure, that it becomes makes it physical properties. And from physical properties, on the basis of its physical state, we have divided it into solids, liquids and gases, correct? As we have just discussed, if we define matter, we will say that matter is anything which occupies some space and have mass, correct? Now, the question might come in your mind that which is a thing that which does not occupy space around me? So if you have a look around yourself, you can see the sunlight, you can see the sound waves which is reaching to you, the electric current. So you can see that these are the forms of, this is energy. Okay, so that is something which we say that it doesn't occupy some space. So the energy is not occupying space. So that is not matter, correct? There are some nature, wave nature and particle nature of light, that also you will study later. But for now, you can understand that matter is any substance which have some mass and occupy some space. Fine. Now, in the as I just discussed, scientists were thinking about that what is the nature of matter, and there were two schools, there were two groups of scientists who were different in their views. So the first one said that the matter is in continuous form. Correct? The meaning of continuous form is they believe that matter exists like a continuous sheet, or that exists like a block of wood. Correct? And the other one believed that the matter has some particle nature. That means the matter is made up of small particles. Correct? And just like the sand, the particle, just like the soil is made up of particles of sand, and the sand has some particles. Same way, some of the scientists, a group of scientists believe that the matter has a particulate form. Correct? This is in years back what the people used to think. So when we talk about after years of studies, now we have reached the conclusion, or we know a lot about matter, what it is made up of, and what are the different things which are from this matter. Correct? So let us discuss about some basic characteristics of particle of matter. You can say that matter is made up of particles. Okay? That means the second school of thought, group of scientists were correct in their thinking that matter is made up of small particles. Correct? And those particles, small particles from which the matter is made up of, is having these basic characteristics. And what are those basic characteristics or features or qualities? First one is, we can say, is particles of matter have space between them. When we study the different forms of matter, like we discussed just back, on the basis of their physical state, we divide the matter into solids, liquid and gases. So when we talk about the particles of matter, we are saying that the particles have some spaces between them. That means the particles, 2 particles, 3 particles, or different particles will be having some spaces between them. Now, how can we prove that? How can we say that? So we can do one simple activity you all can try at home. If you will take a half glass of water and mark it with a pen or some color or a crayon, and put 5 spoons of sugar into that and dissolve it completely, you will see that even after putting 5 or 6 or 7 spoons of sugar, the water level will not rise. Now, how it is possible? Means you are adding sugar, should occupy some space and the water level should rise, but it doesn't happen. Now, what is the reason it doesn't happen? The reason is that this water molecules were having a lot of spaces between them. That means there was spaces between the water molecules or particles and the sugar molecules. The small sugar molecules have taken the space between them. Correct? And that's how the water level does not rise up, and it remains same. So this one activity proves that yes, there is some spaces between the particles. Correct? Second feature of the particles of matter is, or the characteristic is, the particles of matter are constantly moving. You can say here by this GF that the particles are constantly in motion. Correct? Let it be solid, let it be liquid, or let it be gases. Gases are moving at a much more faster speed, like you can see here. And when we talk about the solid state, solid molecules definitely they have less spaces, so they do less movement. But all the particles of matter are moving, and either at a slow speed or at a higher speed, but they are moving. And why it is possible? Because when they have spaces between them, when they have space between them, so they can move. The more the space available between the 2 molecules, more they will be able to move. So this is the second characteristic of particles of matter, that the particles of matter have spaces between them first. Second, they are continuously moving. Fine. And again, how can you try this now? How can you prove this? We can do one more activity. You can take 1 glass of water and put a small drop of anything, ink, or you can pour even ruabza, or you can pour any colored liquid in that water. Now you can take 2 glasses, you can take 1 ice cold water, and you can take 1 normal water or lukewarm water. You will see that the ink or any liquid which you have used, its molecules spread in that beaker or in that glass. So how it is possible? Because the molecules are constantly moving. So they are hitting each other and the two liquids dissolve. Even though you will not stir it, you will see after some time that the molecules have mixed uniformly in that whole glass of water, and you will get one a colored glass of water, correct? So by that we can say that these molecules are constantly moving and they get spread equally in that one glass. Fine. So second characteristic is the particles are constantly moving. Now, the third one is the particles of matter attract each other. Now, there is some force of attraction between two particles also. Just like the earth is being held by the sun's gravity, similarly in particles also there are some forces of attraction which are keeping them together. So, the third characteristic is that the particles of matter attract each other, and that's how they hold each other together. Now, how can say that? There are several activities in which you can observe it. The simplest one is when you put a drop of water on some surface, you will see that it always forms take a form of a drop. Now, why it is so? Because these molecules, as you can see here, these molecules of water, you can see here that you can see this is taking a circular shape. Now, why it is so? Because the molecules of water are trying to keep each other together, and that's how they are coming in a circular form or a form of a drop. So this proves that the particles of matter are attracting each other and trying to hold each other together. Correct? Such a good characteristic. Okay, now next is, after we have discussed about the basic characteristics of matter, let's talk about the different states of matter as well. Okay, so when we talk about different states of matter, we have discussed few slides back also that on basis of physical state, we can divide the matter into solids, liquids and gases. So we have basic three states of matter. Correct? We can also talk about Bose-Einstein condensate and another forms, but for now we are just talking about these three basic forms. So these three basic forms, like solids, we all are aware there are a lot of things around us which are solid. Correct? Like you can take example of a table or a book or a needle or wood or solid crystals of sugar, solid crystals of salt. You can take any example, correct? And we have liquid, milk, water, juices. You can take example of gases, like we have air around us. We have, particularly you can talk about CNG, LPG, correct? And there are a lot of things which are in gaseous form around us. Fine. Now, next when we talk about that, how will we get to know that how these solids, liquid and gases are different from each other, or why one substance exists as a solid or why the other substance exists as a liquid? Why doesn't water at a normal temperature exist as a ice? Correct? Or why is oxygen in gaseous form? So it depends on the basic nature of the particles from which it is made up of. So a lot of things are there. So let's study in a little bit more detail. Let's differentiate between these three and understand that what is the basic difference, that one substance will be solid and the other substance will be liquid, or the third substance can be in its gaseous form. Now these forms also changes into each other. Like you're aware, water changes can change into ice, or water can change into water vapors can change back into water. So that is fine, correct? We will talk about that as well. But for now, let's discuss about the difference between solids, liquids and gases, that how they are different from each other. The basic difference you always know, that solids are hard and liquids can flow and gases can flow at a more higher rate, correct, or speed. But let's take a little bit more points into consideration. Okay, when we talk about solids, you are aware that solids have a definite shape. Like you take example of either this table, cardboard, chair, weight, sugar crystals. You can say that they have a definite shape. Whereas when you talk about liquids, liquids always take the shape of a container they are poured into. And same is with the gases. Gases are also not having any definite shape. Gases can take up as much as space available to them, or gases can spread, or gases can take up the whole space which is available. That means they can fill the whole space in the container. Fine. So let's talk about the further, like how much space is there in between the particles. So when we talk about the space between particles, we say that solids have a little or no space between the particles. So the solids are hardly having any space between them. Yes, they have space between them, but it's very less space. Correct? When we talk about liquids, the particles of liquid are loosely packed. That means they have more space between them. And when we talk about particles of gases, they have they are very loosely packed and have lot of space between them. Correct? This is the basic difference. Okay, moving on further, that why these particles have less space between them, why some particles have more space between them, and why some have lot of spaces between them. The reason behind it is the force of attraction. The force of attraction by which the particles are holding each other. If the particles have strong force of attraction, they will hold each other very tightly, and the substance which is forming or which is having these bonds or these substances together, that will be solid. Correct? So why does solids have a definite shape? The reason behind is the particles from which it is made up of is having very strong force of attraction between its particles. Correct? So here in solids, we are having a very strong force of attraction between the particles. And when we talk about liquids also have good force of attraction, but comparatively lesser than the solids. Fine. And when we talk about gases is having negligible force of attraction. Means it's negligible, means you can neglect that much force of attraction they have between each other. Fine. So we have the negligible force of attraction between the particles in gases. Now next one is, now the molecules of solid, they are being held together by a strong force of attraction, and second reason that they are compact shape is that their molecules have very less kinetic energy. Now kinetic energy means the energy which enables the particles to move around. Fine. So the molecules of solids have very low kinetic energy. So this kinetic energy being low, the molecules can only vibrate on their spaces. They cannot move away from their spaces. They are compactly packed. They have very less space between each other, and they can only vibrate. They can only vibrate on their spaces. Fine. And when we talk about the kinetic energy of liquids, we are saying that they have good amount of kinetic energy. In the liquid molecules are having good amount of kinetic energy. So the liquid molecules can flow, and that's why they can take any shape, but still they are held together. Fine. And when we talk about the molecules of gases, the gas molecules have very high kinetic energy, and that is the reason the gas particles go very far away from each other. They spread very far. So that's the reason behind that the gases spread very fast is because their particles have very high kinetic energy. Fine. And that is the reason the smell of different things spread very fast. If mama is cooking some delicious food, you will easily get to know as soon as you enter, because that hot sizzling food and the smell which is coming from it will reach to you very fast, because the molecules are traveling. Even though some of the neighbors is making a very delicious food, you'll get to know it, because the particles of that food will reach with the flow of air at a higher rate to you. Correct? So that is about gases. Now next property, when we talk about compressibility, like you're aware, when you take any example of a solid substance, you cannot compress solids. Correct? When we talk about the liquids, liquid can be compressed comparatively. They also cannot be compressed so much, but little bit you can compress solids, liquids. And when we talk about gases, gases have very high high compressibility. That means you can, when we talk about CNG, what is CNG? CNG is compressed natural gas. So compressed natural gas means we have compressed that gas into a small cylinder or into very small space. We have tried to fill the more molecules of gas by compressing it. And even in the LPG which we use in our houses, that also has gas filled under pressure. By applying pressure, we have filled the gases in it. Okay, and the next one is, you're aware, solids cannot flow. So when we talk about fluidity, solids cannot flow, whereas you're aware liquids can flow and gases can also flow at a good rate, in fact. Fine. Liquids flow from a high pressure to low pressure, gases spread evenly in all directions. Fine. And lastly, when we talk about solids, because solid molecules are holding each other very tightly, they have very less spaces between them, and so they have high density. Density means how much mass is present in that unit area. So the solid molecules are very dense. When you take example of iron weight, the iron weight hardly occupies a small space. If you take an example of 1 kg iron weight, so that will be this much small. But if you take example of 1 kg poha or 1 kg something else, correct? So that will occupy more space. So the solids have high density. That means the molecules will be more compactly packed. And if you take example of water, 1 liter water, that occupies more space as compared with the solids. So when we talk about liquids also have good density but lesser than solids. And when we talk about gases, they have least density out of these 3 states of matter. So this is the basic difference between solids, liquids and gases. Okay, and the next coming videos will be talking in further detail about how these different forms of matter changes from one another, how it is available, or how these phenomena are related and present around us, are taking place in nature, are affecting our different activities, and all that detail. Fine. Thank you for watching, kids. If you have any question, you can leave in a comment. If you like the video, subscribe to EduAchievers and share with your friends as well. Thank you.